Hey, this is Catherine and Katie, and we are here to give you the 401k. Cheers! Dear the 401k, I'm 27 years old, and the past 2 years, I've gone through the first wave of friends getting engaged and married. Now when I find out a friend got engaged, I tend to start calculating how I'll be able to fit that into the budget. Between bridal showers, bachelorette parties, wedding gifts, dresses, rehearsal dinners, and the actual wedding day, this gets expensive. How do people afford this?
What a good question.
It's so real.
So relevant.
I mean, this past year, I've gone to 2 local weddings.
Should we preface this by telling all of our best friends and girlfriends that this has no bearing whatsoever
Absolutely.
on our
Okay.
love for them, how much we care for them.
Thank you to all of our friends who've gotten married and engaged.
Thank you for inviting us.
And to all the people that attended Catherine's wedding, thank you for the gifts.
Thank you. Talking about this subject of adding up the very real, tangible costs of a wedding, being a guest at a wedding or being in a wedding, it kind of has to happen outside of our relationship or how we feel about the actual people involved, right? I just don't want anybody getting offended.
Totally. When you're invited to 8, 9, 10, 2, or 15 weddings to go to as a guest in a year, that's a lot. And that's a lot that adds up.
And the financial commitment is very real, and you have to talk about it, and you have to think it through to pay for this whole experience, right, of being a guest or being a bridesmaid. Katie, I know you've written out some of the costs with being in a wedding.
Let me just break down a couple costs of a few weddings I've been to. So, first wedding was a friend. I'm not in the wedding. I'm a guest, but it's a girlfriend of mine, which means that I'm going to the bridal shower, $18. I need a gift for the bridal shower, $50.
Oh, so $18 is your transportation.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make that clear.
Yes.
Okay.
So
and
that
the
would
gift
be
was $50.
Just to attend the bridal shower is $18.
Where was this bridal
This was
shower?
3 of us sharing a rental car to the
Okay.
suburbs.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So then bachelorette party. This one I was actually shocked only added up to $175, including hotel for all of us, brunch, Ubers, pizza, and of course all
The prerequisite shirt.
the shirts, the brides, bitches,
Bridesmaids crew.
Oh my God.
We're with the bride, blah, blah, blah. Wait,
Then-
did someone use points for the hotel?
No.
Oh,
So that
okay.
was just 20 girls, 5 hotel
There were
rooms.
20? Oh my gosh, that's a lot of girls.
It's a lot of girls.
That's a lot of hormones.
Yes.
All in one room. Okay.
Yes.
Now
It
that's
was wild.
love right there.
And the memories were priceless. And then on top of that, we needed shared rental car again to get to the bachelorette party, which was in New England. And then $55 across the different bars, just like for my own
Per
drinks.
person. So just you like buying a couple rounds.
Just like me
buying
buying
shots
around,
for the
someone
bride or
buying
whatever.
around. Exactly.
$55.
Then there's the actual wedding. We gave a $100 gift. Transportation to the wedding, $54 again for a rental car. The hotel was $149, which actually was a total steal.
That's a huge steal.
All right, I was
Huge
like,
steal.
awesome. And then I bought a dress for the wedding, which was $40 on sale at Macy's. So total, that wedding cost $681.
That's a lot of money.
If you aren't expecting to pay $681,
Yeah.
and also all of these events were over the course of 3 or 4 months, that definitely adds up if you're not ready for that.
Okay. Talk us through your second
Wedding.
local wedding. It was a local wedding?
Local
also?
wedding.
Okay.
Also. So this one I am a guest. My boyfriend is in the wedding, so no bridal shower, no bachelorette party.
That's nice because sometimes you do get invited to those as the
the-
girlfriend or partner of.
They had a really big engagement party.
Okay.
So there was an engagement gift of $50. The engagement party cost $54 for the rental car to get to, then $40 for food and drinks. So then the actual wedding / rehearsal dinner we had to go to. So rental car was $78. Lodging was $304 for 2 nights. I got a dress for $30 on sale at Nordstrom's. We went out for after party drinks, which was $40 each. And then finally we gave a wedding gift of $150.
Okay.
So that entire wedding cost was $746 for me to be a guest of somebody who's in the wedding.
Okay. And these are both local weddings.
And these are local weddings. So these are like
the
lowest cost. For other weddings where I have had to travel, I think I put in, I had to travel to St. Louis for a wedding, and that plane ticket alone was $500, so that would easily double the cost of either of these weddings.
Yeah, so that's, $470 some odd dollars or whatever, $500 on top of.
Correct.
All of the costs you just outlined. Okay, so in the American Express Spending and Saving Tracker Survey, the average guest spent approximately $592 per wedding, with bridesmaids and groomsmen typically shelling out a bit more, with an average of $618 spent per wedding. In 2016, the average guest spent $888 per wedding, according to a study from The Knot. And for those in the wedding party, the price of being a stand-up friend was over $1,000. Okay, so what we're seeing here is that you are definitely...
I'm in the range.
You're in the range. I mean, I kind of think you're above average, at least based on the 2014 stats that they provide here.
But going up from 2014 to 2016, that's almost a 50% increase in cost over 2 years. So it's been 2 years since 2016. If that goes up another 50%, then I'm actually below average.
Wow, it's a bad time to be 27 years old, huh?
And yeah, I'm lucky I'm 27 and my friends are getting married. If my friends were getting married at 23, I'd be like...
Which happens.
I can get you... like a Bud Light. That's your wedding gift.
I'll be the Bud Light girl at your wedding.
30 racks for everyone.
That would be a really nice and generous gift of you.
I mean,
30 racks for everyone.
Now people want gifts from like Crate and Barrel or Pottery Barn. Those are a bit more expensive than a Bud Light.
I don't even shop at Pottery Barn and Crate and Barrel.
I don't either for myself.
Well, that's what I mean.
So maybe that's the excuse is you're
so people are like
getting married and you're like, well...
It's a gift. It's not something you would buy yourself. Maybe. Yeah.
But I would say the past few years has been my first wave of going to weddings pretty much once a month or every couple months. And it is definitely overwhelming. Like, I don't know if you can necessarily budget for it. One of our friends got engaged in maybe March or April last year. And in my head, I was like, oh, that's so great. We're going to have weddings next year. We'll budget in, $1,000 for that wedding. And then they got married 6 months later. So if you only have that runway of you got engaged, we're so excited for you. And now in 6 months.
It's kind of hard to set aside $100 a month or more in the case of spending $800 or $1,000 if you're in the wedding.
Especially if you already had other things planned for that money. Like, I think we had a vacation planned right before it. And it was like, well, we need to coordinate saving for the vacation, but also saving for XYZ. So how have you managed it? I mean, you must have experience with...
I have a few more years of experience.
Going to weddings, being invited to weddings.
Yeah. As a guest... Personally, I lived away for a really long time. So I lived out of the country. My husband and I were in London London and Poland for upwards of 8.5 years total. So I was kind of forced to say no to a lot of weddings.
In the U.S., yeah.
In the U.S., yeah. So all of my family and friends, 98% of my family and friends are in the U.S. I had to make difficult choices. My brother got married the same year that I got married, and we flew home for our own wedding. Our own wedding was a destination for us. And I think, like, if you look at these costs, we probably spent this plus throw another $1,000 on top of it for flights. Sometimes, especially in the case of summer weddings, when we did fly home for these weddings. So for us, saying yes to the wedding was an even larger financial commitment. I was in a couple of weddings, and I missed all of the pre-wedding events. I missed the shower. I missed the bachelorette. I did come obviously home for the wedding and still spent probably what you spent, but also had the issue of not being present and feeling like I was missing out a little bit and wondering if my friends were hurt by it. And probably on some level they were, but I also think they couldn't maybe argue or demand any other logic from me because they knew it was a cost.
I think you might have told me at one point that, if you were missing an event, you still would send, champagne to the room for a bachelorette or something. So you were...
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing nothing, for sure. And I think, if anything, it probably made me go over the top more with the gift or with the more, obvious gestures. And not because I wanted to make some grand showcase of things, but I wanted to demonstrate that even though I physically couldn't be there, I did want to contribute in a way that could work for me. So I had finals when my best friend was getting married and couldn't fly home. I probably would have flown home for her bachelorette, but I couldn't because I had finals.
And that's something that we haven't even, the opportunity cost that's non-monetary. So
yes.
You having to coordinate your finals to make that bachelorette, or having to figure out how many vacation days you are going to take to attend that wedding, or...
Yeah, it's like a non-financial commitment to the wedding.
Friday weddings.
Yeah, what is it with that?
Because I think it's a cheaper...
I don't think it is. I think it was, and then the wedding industry got really smart.
And so they just made it the same?
And now it's the same. I think they maybe offer some sort of discounts, but I don't think it ends up being a significantly cheaper event overall.
My boyfriend and I were saying for that wedding that he was just in... But it was a Friday wedding, so that meant the rehearsal was 5 o'clock on Thursday. So for us to get there,
we had 2 days off.
2 days off. So it ended up being a very nice 4-day weekend. But
if you don't have the vacation time, or you've just taken on a new job and you don't have, that's unpaid time.
Exactly.
Oh, you should add that cost in to your little
that's a whole
facts and figures over here.
Seriously, if you add in
your hourly rate,
paid time.
But that is quite a commitment.
Especially if you're being paid hourly.
Yeah, so now I'm looking back at the original question.
Yep.
Right? And I think the question kind of finished with how do people afford this. I think you have to prioritize. And I don't mean prioritize your friendships. I think you have to look at your year ahead and say, which weddings can I absolutely not miss because I've maybe committed to being a bridesmaid or doing a reading or whatever that specific role might be. Which weddings can I afford to maybe say yes to a few events but not all? And which ones do I have to say, this is a really nice friend from work or colleague or acquaintance, but I actually am not in a financial position to say yes to everything. I mean, at some point you have to kind of draw a line and say, what can I reasonably offer of myself? Because you can't get yourself into debt over it. Everybody's wedding is important to them, but in your instance, if you have 8 or 9 weddings in 1 year, you can't spend $1,000 on every wedding. The math just isn't going to work.
It doesn't add up.
No. I think what I found challenging was I actually had a situation, and I'll share this with you, where I had 4 or 5 weddings that year. I was in 2 of them, so I was definitely flying home for those 2.
Yeah.
One was a childhood best friend, and I couldn't miss that one, so that was my 3rd. And I kind of had to draw the cap and was like, okay, I have no more vacation time, and the flights are crazy. Yep. Like, this is it. There's going to be 3 weddings this year, and I had 2 more weddings. One was in March and one was in June, and I really wanted to go to the one in March. I feel really close to this person. She's one of my best girlfriends. And at the time, I made this conscious decision that if I said yes to hers and didn't say yes to that one other wedding, it would have offended the one person. It probably would have deeply offended that other one, the one person whose wedding I chose not to go to. So I made the call. It was tough, but I made the call to say I'm just not going to go to either. And my cutoff was basically that I'm not in the wedding, or I don't have this like really like deep relationship from childhood with you.
Right.
You're both kind of in a similar pocket of like you're both really good college friends of mine, but I basically if I say no to both, no one gets hurt. Whereas if I pick one, then it looks like I'm choosing one friend over the other. And I still feel really good with that decision. It was hard, but I know that I did the right thing. And I can say my friendships are no different with these people than they would have been if I had gone to the wedding. It did not impact us at all.
And I think that goes back to exactly what you were saying, where it's not prioritizing your friends.
Actually, some of us have family members that we're not as close to as some of our friends, but when push comes to shove, the obligation is probably stronger to go to your sister's wedding or your brother's wedding than it is to go to your colleague's wedding. Even though you may really, really love your colleague and enjoy their company, it probably is a little bit easier to say no to that one simply because of your relationship with that person. It's hard. I don't think there is a right answer. I think you do truly have to look at what your current financial situation is. And I do think that if you have strong friendships, I don't think anybody would tell you that you're not being a good friend because you don't want to get yourself into debt over their wedding.
In fact, if you're pretending like you can go and then decide you can't, that's actually worse. It's almost better to be upfront and be like, this is where I am. I can't make it work. I'm so sorry. But I feel like you just have to be able to have those honest conversations and preserve the friendship. I think you actually did you have an example of that where...
Yeah, so that was my other, like, tough situation. So my best friend got married this past year, and she had her bachelorette party / trip, because now it is usually a weekend away. In your 30s, it's a weekend away because everybody's pretty settled and wants to escape and have fun. So she decided she wanted to go to Vegas and planned a party for 8 to 10 girls to go to Vegas. I just knew that it wasn't in the budget for me. I was going to be in the wedding. I was already going to be spending a lot of money on hotels, gifts. There's a huge cost just associated with leaving my house, never mind the actual hotel cost. And I knew that wasn't going to fit in with my mortgage and 2 kids and full-time daycare. I said no right from the start. And there were some people who I think said maybe or yes half-heartedly and then ended up dropping out. And I actually think in that instance, those people probably got more of that negative attention than they would have liked to have received. I think maybe there were some unmet expectations because they did that. Whereas my friend understood that it just wasn't an option for me, and it didn't impact us. It really didn't. We never also had some massive sit down. It kind of just went out that, like, who's interested, and I said this isn't going to work for me financially, and that was enough. It wasn't even this, like, sit down, drag out, apologetic thing. And I think that is a big thing. I don't think you should be apologizing. You can't have everything and it comes at a cost, which may mean I have to say no to some fun things sometimes.
Absolutely.
Including a girls' weekend in Vegas.
Yeah.
Which ended up costing thousands of dollars, by the way, for just Vegas was thousands.
Well, yeah.
That's another thing that I've noticed, the 20s to the 30s. So in your 20s, you have disposable income, but to your point, you're invited to like 10 weddings every year or something. So
whatever.
You end up not really having as much disposable income, right? In your 30s, a lot of your friends in your cohort tend to be married and maybe have a kid or like maybe even 2 kids. And they don't get out much, but they do earn more. And you up the ante, right? Like now we're in our 30s, we're more established, we're more senior at our jobs, we earn more. So now we're going to go and splash out, right? Yeah. We're really going to like paint the town red. We're going to get the fancy bottle of wine and we're going to
have the champagne button.
We're going to press that champagne button on the table. We're going to order, drink service and all of these things at a club, you name it. Like then the expectation is that we're going to do it, but we're going to do it right now because we're in our 30s.
You also brought up a point of how you were able to just tell your friend up front, hey, this isn't going to work for me financially. And it doesn't have to be this big, like, I can't afford it this month, like here's this math equation of my accounting system. But I do think that more friends need to be open, being able to just say that without it becoming a stigma.
I think it's part of being an adult. You raise a really good point, right? Step 1, part of being an adult is saying no sometimes, even when you don't want to. And step 2 is that you shouldn't be ashamed to tell your friends that you have a limit. How many times have you gone out to eat and you're like, I need to stop eating because I'm full, or I need to stop drinking because I'm drunk?
I think it should be that casual of a conversation.
I need to stop spending money because I need to be smart about my budget.
Have limits, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think
whether it's a limit for the weekend, the week, the month, or the year, whatever it is.
True friendship. I know this sounds really corny, but true friendship is not about how much you're willing to spend on someone. And it's not about getting yourself into trouble for the other person. Right. And I think if push came to shove, even the most high-strung, demanding bride, if you sat down and told them, I just financially cannot commit, it doesn't, please separate that out from the fact that, I'm so happy for you and I want to be involved and included and have some role and participate in your wedding as a guest or whatever. It doesn't mean that you have to drop thousands of whatever amounts of money on them.
Right.
I just could never imagine telling my friend that if they're not willing to spend money on me, they're not my friend.
Right. The one thing you do have to remember is, if you're one in a group of friends, you're all experiencing the same kind of costs of a wedding. So being able to, you know, share that cost as much as possible, you know, whether that's sharing a rental car to
hotel room,
the 17 events, or
Yeah.
even just going in together on a big gift where you guys end up spending less per person.
Right.
All those are ways you can, like, share the costs.
You've been listening to the 411K. Tune in for more podcasts and follow us on Instagram at _411K. Cheers!